So here we are at the governor's office with our governor, Jay Inslee. Governor, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for bringing some Honeycrisp here.
Yeah, these are Honeycrisp from Wenatchee,
Nice.
the apple capital of the world.
Yeah.
So wanted to share those with you. But I was thinking about the questions I might want to ask you, and it occurred to me that you might be the only person I'll ever meet that got elected to Congress from both sides of our state. And so one thing I was thinking is, does that impact the way you govern when you try to be a governor for the whole state?
You bet. I mean, we're all shaped by our personal experiences, and I represented Central Washington and Wenatchee Valley for 2 years, and then 4 years in the state legislature. And we've got it, I've got it in my bones, and it's such a beautiful place, and I worked on things that are still important, including the apple industry. So the very first bill I introduced here as governor was something important, which is irrigated agriculture in Central Washington. We know that our ag depends on irrigation supplies in Central Washington. So the first bill I introduced was to help irrigated ag. It's in the Yakima River Basin to try to improve irrigation supplies and fish passage in the Yakima Basin. So it's very much on my mind. I got relatives in East Wenatchee, and it's just a very favored place. So yeah, it does have a big impact where you've come. So I spent a couple decades in Central Washington and the rest of my life in Western Washington, and it is a unique thing, and I think it's a good thing for the state of Washington. I'm actually the first governor from the east side of the state since Clarence Martin.
Oh, is that right?
And Clarence Martin, of course, was the governor who poured the first concrete for the Grand Coulee Dam. In fact, I've seen this picture of him bringing the big bucket, loading the very first concrete pour. And he also was the guy who came up with the slogan, "Keep Washington Green." And he came up with it himself. So what he did has some resonance. We're still building infrastructure projects, right? We need transportation, we need irrigation supplies, and we need to keep our resources healthy. And so we're still working on those things.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you sort of alluded to was the focus on agriculture. And we, in Washington State, there's been a lot of talk about the aerospace industry and how important that is, which it is vitally important for our state. But, where I come from, apples and agriculture are very important. What things do you think we might be able to do in the state of Washington in the years ahead for supporting agriculture?
Well, the sky's the limit in ag. We've led the world, but we've still got huge growth potential in international trade, particularly. I was in China helping promote our ag and other products a couple months ago, and they were just wild about our products. We opened up China to pears, for instance, for the first time to get our pears into China. We have the potential to double our wine grape production in the state of Washington in the next 10 or 12 years. In China, I met business people there that were very interested in our high quality premium wines. And of course, the reason why I think we're poised with such growth here is that as the rest of the world does better economically and they want to eat higher in the food chain and eat higher quality products, well, guess who builds, and creates the highest quality products? It's Washington State. Quality wines, quality apples, quality hops, added value candies, I think of Chucker Cherries down in Prosper, Washington, applets and cotlets. It's just, so we have, our claim to fame is not only prodigious amounts of production, but very high quality products. So I think we're very well poised, but we've got to have more sustained irrigated agriculture, which is in risk because of climate change and reduced snowpack. We've got to have a transportation system that allows those products to get to market. So, we have work to do here in the legislature.
Yeah. Well, thank you for mentioning that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about education. You may know I serve on the House Education Committee, and I think it was a couple weeks ago you released a proposal on how we could fund education a little bit more, sort of beyond what the legislature has done in this current budget. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you think that's important to do now?
Well, I'd start with the beginning. Our paramount duty is to our children, and that's in our Constitution, but it's also in our lives as fathers and mothers, and I'm a granddad, and my wife's a grandma now. So, our first order of business as parents is for our kids, and our first order as governors and legislators obviously has to be the education of our children. So I think we start foundationally from that place. And the fact is that our kids need some things they're not getting right now. They have classes that are too large, particularly in the early grades. They have a lack of basic resources just to, have computers and books. We have a wide divergence in what people do get across the state for education. And we know there's some things that we need in both the early and late. On higher ed, we know we've got thousands of jobs in computer science, but we can't fill them right now. And we've got thousands of kids that need early childhood education who are right now coming to first grade not ready to learn, and they come in behind and they stay behind. We've got a dropout rate that's almost 50% in some of our populations in the state. So you can't solve all problems with money, but there are some things you do need resources on, and education is one of them. Now, as you know, the Supreme Court, Washington State Supreme Court has ruled that we need to put about $5 billion more into our children's education to meet our constitutional duty. And we're falling behind on that on a pace to really be able to fully fund that court order. So both our moral responsibility to our kids and our legal responsibility, I think, requires, and more importantly, the Supreme Court has ruled, requires additional investment. So I've proposed to do another $200 million this year. We'll have a lot more after that. And I hope we can make some progress here.
Okay. And shifting gears again, that was my house desk is in the front row, so I had a first row seat for the State of the State address. One of the things that you mentioned was the need to increase the minimum wage. I have to tell you, Governor, I personally disagree with you on this, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell viewers why you feel that that's important to take that step now for our state.
Well, I think two reasons. One is kind of basic. It's a value statement. I really respect all work, and I respect all workers. Work is intrinsic to the human condition. It's something I really respect. And I think today what we can say is all jobs and all work has dignity, but they don't have a living wage. And my basic principle is I think if you work a good 40-hour week and you work hard and you do your job and you ask to do what the boss asks you to do, you ought not to live in poverty. And the situation today is that our minimum wage really is behind what it has been decades ago, and you live in poverty now. So today, if you're in minimum wage, you're below the poverty line. You're eligible for food stamps, you're on assistance of various natures. So you're below the dignity of being able to live a life that is not in poverty. So that's number one. Number two, and this is something that I've learned talking to the economists. In fact, we were in this room here about a week ago talking to the state's economists that advised us. And what they told me is that our lower wage jobs are not keeping pace with productivity. So we've had a 52% increase in productivity, but only 8% median wage increase, and that hasn't gone to the lower wage earners. So they're producing more, but not capturing that. As a result, those low wages are dragging down our economy. What I asked them here in this room last week is that we got Amazon, we got Microsoft, we got Boeing. Why aren't we having more rapid economic growth? And their answer was, because the lower end of the pay scale don't have enough money to be good consumers. They can't spread the money through the economy. They can't create jobs in all these other small businesses. And that low wage lack of growth is not allowing our economy to grow. So I think it's both a moral issue of dignity in work and an economic one that says we ought to move forward. By having a reasonable, there's got to be a reasonable level.
Right.
You can't double it overnight. You can't raise it 50% overnight, but some reasonable level. So I have suggested that we consider something in the $1.50, $2.50 range, and that we work together to try to find that right number.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the debate will continue in the halls of the legislature.
We have those on occasion.
Yes, right. And just wanted to finish up on one thing. You and I actually have one thing in common, as well as lots of other things, but we're both in our second year. You're in your second year as governor. I'm in my second year here serving in the House. One question I ask of my colleagues is to kind of break out their crystal ball and look ahead and try to think about where the state is going to be in the next 2 or 4 or 6 years in terms of our economy and our budget. And I'm sure that weighs heavily on you as governor, but can you tell us what your thoughts are, if you can show us into your crystal ball a little bit?
I'm bullish on our state. We're always going to have the best apples in the world like we do in Washington.
Right.
That's why I wear an apple pin every day. I've got one little apple pin here every day.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. Our aerospace future is assured now for several decades with winning the 777X, and we appreciate the legislative work on that, and we all pulled together, and that's a tremendous thing for the state of Washington. Our tech sector is doing well. We've got some of the most active internet companies in the world. We've got companies that may find a cure for cancer almost literally. There's a new company actually called Juno, that's doing some extraordinary things. We want to see a more uniform economic growth, though. We've got a non-uniform economic growth. We want to see more successes, like in Moses Lake at the SGL company that is making carbon fiber for the new BMW i3. Actually, BMW had me come out to New York to celebrate this new electric car that is made with carbon fiber that's produced in Moses Lake. The REC company, Moses Lake, is going crazy making substrate for silicon solar panels. So we want to find a way to spread some of that economic growth across the state of Washington. And I think high-tech manufacturing has a bright future in places on the east side of the Cascades, and we have seen that in a variety of places. So we want to see that continue to grow.
Well, I certainly hope so. I just wanted to thank you for your time. You've been very generous with
Thank
your
you.
time. Another time that you were extremely generous, and I have a picture to show, which we wanted to give you, was when you met with the Apple Blossom Royalty. When they made their visit, you were so kind to spend good quality time with them. We wanted to give this to you. The Apple Blossom Royalty for 2014, they're making their trip over here, but unfortunately, you're going to be out of the state for that. But on behalf of the Apple Blossom Festival, I just wanted to say thank you and tell you that you have an open invitation to our Apple Blossom Parade. And this year's parade is on Saturday, May 3rd. And if you can't make it this year, I want you to know that you have an open invitation.
Well, I should start
anytime.
building my float right now.
Yeah, you'd be great.
20-foot Honeycrisp.
Yeah, there you go. I think you'd make it.
It's a great community. You know, it's just such a wonderful place, such a beautiful place. I've got in-laws that live in East Wenatchee and spend some time there, and so it's just a wonderful place. I hope to keep working with it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.